She didn't lose the money all at once. That's the part people always get wrong. They imagine a single moment, one bad decision, one obvious mistake. But that's not what happened to Margaret. Margaret lost it slowly, over 14 months, in amounts that never felt like amounts, in moments that always felt like love. And by the time she understood what was happening, she had already sent $61,400 to a man she had never met in person. Not once. This is a documentary about financial exploitation disguised as emotional connection. It is not here to judge Margaret. It is not here to entertain you with her pain. It is here because the pattern you are about to watch is one of the most common, most invisible, and most financially devastating crimes targeting people over 50 in the United States today. We are telling this story so it doesn't happen to you. Margaret was 61 years old when this began. She lived alone in a 2-bedroom house in Raleigh, North Carolina. She had lived there for 22 years, first with her husband, then with her husband and her daughter, then just with her husband, and then, after 2019, just with herself. Her husband, Dale, died of a cardiac event on a Tuesday morning in March. He was washing dishes. Margaret was in the next room. She didn't talk about it much. That was her way. What she did talk about when she talked was the quiet. Not the grief exactly, the quiet. The way mornings felt like a room with the furniture rearranged. Everything was in the right place, but somehow she kept walking into corners. She retired from her position as a school administrator in 2021. She had a pension, a modest savings account, and a small amount in a retirement fund. Comfortable, not wealthy. Stable, not abundant. She had $94,000 in savings. That was everything. She had spent 30 years building. She walked her neighborhood every morning at 7. She called her daughter Renee on Sundays. She kept a small garden. She read. She watched nature documentaries. And some evenings, when the quiet became a specific kind of loud, she opened her laptop and went to a senior social platform, a community forum for people her age who wanted conversation, recipes, book recommendations, and sometimes just to feel like someone else was awake too. That's where she met Daniel. His profile said he was 64, a retired civil engineer from Portland, Oregon, widower, one adult son. He didn't see enough. His profile photo showed a man with silver hair, standing near what looked like the coast at somewhere cold and beautiful. His first message to her was about a book. She had posted in a forum thread about a novel she was reading, something about memory and loss, which was the only kind of book she could finish that year. He had read it too. He said the ending bothered him. He explained why. It was a good explanation. She wrote back. They exchanged messages for 2 weeks before she gave him her email address. He wrote long emails, thoughtful. He remembered what she said and referenced it later. He asked follow-up questions. He told her about his son in Denver, about a project he once built in the Pacific Northwest, about how he still made coffee for 2 out of habit and didn't notice until the second cup sat cold on the counter. She understood that. She told him about Dale. She hadn't told anyone about Dale in that much detail for years. He said, "You carry him with care. That says a lot about who you are." She read that sentence 3 times. By the end of the second month, they were talking every day, sometimes twice. He called her on WhatsApp, video calls, not just voice. She could see his face. He smiled at her. He asked how her garden was doing. He remembered her neighbor's name. He told her he was working a short-term engineering consultation in Aberdeen, Scotland. It was the last contract he planned to take before fully retiring. After this, he said, he wanted to travel, slowly, to places that had meaning, not just destinations. He said he'd been thinking about the Carolina coast. She didn't respond to that directly. But she thought about it for 3 days. By month 3, Margaret's Sunday calls with Renee had shifted. She still made them, but she was less present. She would glance at her phone, checking if he had written. She started ending the calls a little earlier. She didn't notice she was doing this. What she noticed was that the mornings felt different. She had something to look forward to, a conversation to continue, a person who was waiting to hear from her. "I think about you more than I should," he wrote once. Late on a Thursday night, she closed her laptop and sat in the dark for a while. Then she opened it again and wrote back, "Me too." He began talking about what came after his contract, gently, carefully, not as a plan, as a wish. He said he imagined mornings without a schedule. He said he was tired of hotel rooms. He said he wanted to cook a real meal in a real kitchen again. She mentioned that she had a garden, and that her kitchen was larger than she needed for one person. He said, "That sounds like the kind of place a person could breathe." They didn't say anything more direct than that. But the future was there, between the lines, and she was reading it every night. It was month 4 when he first mentioned a problem. He told her there had been a delay with his payment from the consulting firm. Something about an international banking transfer that was taking longer than expected. He wasn't worried, he said. These things happened, but it meant he was short for his hotel that week, and he was embarrassed to say it. And he almost didn't. He said he and no one else he trusted enough to mention it to. She said, "How much do you need?" He said he couldn't ask her to do that. She said she wasn't asking. She was offering. She sent $800. He paid it back within 9 days with a note that said, "I told you I would," and he had. That was the thing. He said he would pay her back, and he did. And now, looking back, she knows exactly when it started. It wasn't the 800. It was the way she felt when she sent it. Not afraid, not suspicious. She felt chosen. She felt like someone who mattered enough to be trusted with a real problem. After 2 years of being the person other people worried about, the widow, the retiree, the quiet woman at the end of the street, she was the capable one, the one someone needed. She didn't see that as a signal. She saw it as love. 3 weeks later, he brought up a larger problem. He explained it carefully. The consulting firm had frozen partial payments due to a contract dispute. His personal accounts were tied up in a legal hold from his late wife's estate, a complication that had been dragging on for over a year. He said he was mortified. He said he hated this. He said he had never been in a position like this in his adult life. He needed $3,200 to cover a month of expenses while the situation resolved. This time, Margaret was quiet for 2 days. She didn't respond to his messages right away. She walked her morning route and thought. She stood in her kitchen and stared at nothing. Something felt different about this one. Not wrong, exactly. Just heavier. He didn't push. That was the part she kept coming back to. He didn't push. He said, "Please don't feel any pressure. I'll find another way. I should never have mentioned it." That was the sentence that ended the hesitation. She had $94,000. She had no mortgage. She had a pension. She was not reckless. She was helping someone she trusted. Someone who had proven himself by paying her back. Someone who was not asking, but who needed. She told herself, "This is what people do for each other. This is what a relationship is. This is not a handout. It's a bridge." She sent the $3,200. He was grateful in a way that felt real. Quiet and real. He said, "You made me feel alive again. I haven't had someone in my corner in a long time." Over the following 4 months, there were 3 more requests. Each one came with a context. Each context was different but logical. A medical bill for any procedure, $4,800. A legal fee related to the estate dispute, $7,500. An emergency with his son in Denver that he couldn't detail, but that left him shaking on a video call. $6,000. Each time, she hesitated a little longer. Each time, the hesitation ended the same way. She had sent $22,300 by month 8. And she had told no one. She didn't tell Renee because Renee would ask questions she didn't want to answer. She didn't tell her neighbor. She didn't tell her friend from church. She kept it quiet the way people keep things quiet when they know, somewhere below thought, that the outside world might see something they cannot afford to see yet. Month 10. He called on a Tuesday afternoon, and his voice was different. Tight, controlled, but tight. He said the consulting contract had collapsed entirely. The firm was being investigated by Scottish financial regulators. His final payment, nearly $60,000, was frozen indefinitely pending review. He couldn't touch his accounts. He couldn't book a flight home. He was, he said, completely stranded. He needed $12,000. He said, I would never ask you for this. You know I would never ask you for this. But I have nowhere else to turn. And I am asking you because I love you. And because I will spend the rest of my life making this right. She sat in her kitchen for a long time. Then she transferred the money. At this point in the story, something is already true that Margaret does not yet know. There is no consulting firm in Aberdeen. There is no estate dispute. There is no son in Denver who needed help. And there is no man named Daniel with silver hair standing by the cold coast of somewhere beautiful. But we won't tell you who Daniel really is yet. Because Margaret doesn't know yet either. And for 2 more months, she keeps sending. He always had a reason he couldn't visit. The contract, the legal hold, the flight costs that were now somehow her problem too. He had never video called her from anywhere that looked like Scotland. The background was always the same, the wall, the desk, a lamp. One Sunday, she mentioned him to Renee. Just briefly, she said she had made a friend on someone she had been talking to for almost a year. Renee asked to see a photo. Margaret said she'd send one later. She never did. It was a Thursday in month 12. Margaret was at her computer, and she had been doing something she told herself she wasn't doing. Searching. His name, his firm, the contract, Aberdeen financial regulators. She found nothing that confirmed him, and one thing that didn't fit, the photo on his profile. The man with silver hair near the cold coast appeared in a reverse image search as a stock photo, used on at least 4 different websites. She sat with that for a moment. Then she opened WhatsApp and called him. He answered on the second ring. His voice was warm. He asked how her garden was doing. She said, Are you really who you say you are? There was a pause, short but there. Then he laughed, soft, a little hurt. He said, Margaret, after everything we've shared, I understand why you might feel that way. These situations are frightening. I would be frightened too. But you know me. You've known me for a year. You know what we have. She said, I know. And she believed him. For 3 more weeks, she believed him. She sent 9,000 more during those 3 weeks. It was Renee who found it. Renee had been worried for months. The shortened calls, the distracted silences, the foil that never came. She didn't push, but she started reading about romance scams. She printed out a checklist. She brought it to her mother on a Saturday in month 14, and she sat across from her at the kitchen table, and she went through it, item by item. Margaret sat with her hands flat on the table. She didn't move them. At some point, she picked up her coffee cup. She set it back down without drinking. Her breathing changed, slower, like something was trying to stay very still. Renee kept talking, gently, but she kept talking. Margaret looked at the checklist for a long time. Then she looked at the window. She had said the total of $61,400. She had $32,600 left in savings. The rest gone. Transferred in increments she had justified to herself, one at a time, each one feeling like a decision that made sense in the moment. The money was not the worst part. She looked for him online for days after. She found nothing. The profile had been deleted. The WhatsApp number no longer worked. The email address bounced. He was gone the way a story ends. Completely, cleanly, as if he had never been written. She had told him about Dale. The Tuesday morning. The dishes. The room next door. She had told him things she hadn't told Renee. And whoever had been on the other end of those conversations, whatever room, whatever country, whatever face, had listened to all of it and used none of it for anything except to stay a little longer. The money could, over time, be partially rebuilt. Maybe what she shared with him could not be. That was the part she didn't know how to explain to Renee. who wanted to call the bank, the police, the FTC. Margaret let her make the calls. She sat at the kitchen table while Renee talked to people on the phone. She kept her hands flat on the table. Months later, Margaret would say something that her daughter couldn't quite understand. She said, "The worst part wasn't that he lied. The worst part was that I was never talking to anyone." She meant, somewhere in that year, she had started talking to herself, to a version of connection she had constructed, in collaboration with someone who was feeding her exactly the pieces she needed to keep building it. She had done much of the work herself. She had written the future in her head. She had decided what he meant and what she meant to him. He had simply held the door open. She went back to her morning walks. She called Renee on Sundays. She didn't go back to the forum. For a long time, she didn't open her laptop in the evenings at all. The garden came back in spring. She spent more time in it than she used to. She planted things that took a full season to bloom, things that required patience and didn't promise anything quickly. She didn't talk about Daniel, not because she was ashamed, or not only because of that. She didn't talk about him because she was still sorting out which parts of that year had been real. The loneliness had been real. The need for connection had been real. The morning feeling, like someone was waiting to hear from her, that had been real. The rest of it had been architecture. Beautiful architecture built on nothing. Romance scams targeting people over 50 result in more than 1 billion in reported losses every year in the United States alone. The actual number is believed to be significantly higher because the majority of victims never report what happened. They don't report it because they are afraid of being seen as foolish, because they loved someone who was never there, because the crime is financial but the damage isn't. Margaret was not naive. She was not lonely in a way that made her reckless. She was a retired school administrator with 30 years of professional judgment, a woman who had raised a daughter and built a life and carried grief quietly and well. She was exactly the kind of person who believes it could never happen to her. If you think this could never happen to you, this is exactly how it begins. Not with a stranger asking for money, with a person who reads you carefully, who asks the right questions, who remembers what you said, who gives you something you didn't know you were missing and then slowly asks you to protect it. Financial warning signs are real and they matter, but the emotional architecture is what makes them invisible until it's very late. Here's what to watch for. Any online relationship, romantic or otherwise, that has never resulted in an in-person meeting after more than 2 or 3 months. Any person who introduces financial problems into what began as an emotional connection. Any money transfer that you feel you cannot tell your family about. Any request accompanied by urgency and love in the same sentence. Any story that is always just complicated enough to explain why things can't be verified. If someone is asking you for money, and you have never seen them outside of a screen, pause. Tell someone you trust, not because you are foolish, but because this is how it works. The house in Raleigh is quiet again. Margaret gets up at the same time. She makes coffee. She walks the same route. The garden is doing well this year, better than last year, she says. She doesn't go back to the forum. She thinks about it sometimes, not because she wants to go back, just because it was a place where, for a while, she felt like someone was awake with her. She knows now that nobody was. She thinks about the man in the photo, the real man, whoever he is, standing by the coast of somewhere cold and beautiful, not knowing his image has been used this way. She feels something for him too. That surprised her. She talked to a fraud counselor for a few months. She filled out the FTC report. She called her bank. Though there was nothing they could do, the transfers had been authorized by her with her own hands. She told Renee, "I think what I grieve most is the mornings. That feeling that someone was waiting. That's not something you can get back easily." Renee didn't know what to say to that. Neither do we. What happened to Margaret is happening right now to someone else. Probably to many people. People who are not foolish, not broken, not unlike you. People who are simply human in the ways that make us all reachable. The need for someone to be awake with us, the desire to be chosen, the hope that it's not too late to have something worth looking forward to. The people who build these traps understand that need. They are patient, they are methodical, and they are very, very good at making love feel like the reason rather than the mechanism. The best protection is not suspicion, it is structure. Tell someone before the money moves, always before the money moves. She never got to say goodbye to him because he was never there to leave. When money goes wrong, real stories, calm clarity, hard lessons.